This video, I'll be showing you the various King's Gambit variations so that you learn from them and win your games easily. Thank you. Go ahead and subscribe, like, and comment. This game begins with pawn e4, e5, f4, the King's Gambit, and black accepts it. He takes f4 and knight f3. So we have been seeing various variations whereby we are playing knight e7, but this time around we are playing another variation. Bishop e7 in anticipation of the bishop, h4, check. However, we go ahead to develop our pieces, bishop c4. In case of bishop check, we can just play our king on f1 and we can still go on and play. So knight f6 in this position, whereby black also just developed a piece. So black went ahead to take knight takes e4 in anticipation of if, for example, knight takes, we can just play pawn d5 and we can get back the piece. But he missed what white had prepared for them. White played bishop takes f7, king takes f7, knight check, king comes to the center, that is king e6, and knight takes e4. So we are going to look at all the variations. What happens if king takes knight on e5? So if king takes knight on e5, we can play d4 check, king e6, queen g4, king f7, short castling, just a simple move to be played, king g8, queen times f4, queen e8, queen e5, h6, knight f6 in check, sacrificing another piece, g times f6, we are opening up the king side, rook times f6, rook h7 protecting the bishop on e7, rook f3 anticipating to pin or to check the king from g3, queen g6, rook g3, bishop g5, and then bishop times g5, knight c6 hitting on the queen, queen d5 check, queen e6, bishop times h6, king h8, queen g5, queen f7, and rook e1 with a decisive advantage, and we can go on to win the game. However, still in this position, black didn't eat the piece, played d5, queen g4 check, king takes knight, d4 with a d4 check. King has two options, either take on d4 or either take on e5. So if king takes e4, we have queen takes f4, checkmate in one, so that is impossible. So what I take d4, c3, you look at all these squares, we only have this square which is free for him and this square, but if you go to this square, still it's the same thing. We have a variety of moves. We have the pawn push, we have the queen check. All those are potential attacks and he has no way of surviving, and all those are checkmates. So he decided to play simple. King comes back and then bishop takes check. So here black has to play it safe. All the squares are covered. He has only one option, take the knight. So king takes knight, queen check, king goes to f5, bishop takes c7, opening with a discovered check on the king, king g6, bishop takes queen, rook takes bishop, short castling, then knight c6, developing a piece, queen g3, checking the king, king goes back to h6 trying to find a square to hide, rook enters threatening checkmate in one, pawn push, then we also push the pawn to open up the king. We need to see the king. Then rook f1 trying to bring more pieces in the attack. Then bishop e6, take pawn, rook takes, and queen check. Now if you look at this position, all the moves are forced, and after rook blocking, there is rook f6, bishop takes f6, and queen takes f6. This is a game between Alexis Shirov and Jerzy Lapsinski. It's a vicious thriller in the King's Gambit. So we're going to begin with a 1 e4 by Shirov and Lapsinski e5, f4, e takes f4, knight f3. So we have had various choices. We have had bishop e7, knight e7, and other pawn pushes, but this time around we are having another vicious way of going about the King's Gambit. So in this position we have g5. G5 with as another strong move suggested by the computer is pawn h4, so that when you go ahead to push, we can play knight, anticipating to sack the pawn, which is on f7, with a bishop c4, or that is a theory in King's Gambit. But this time around we have a different one, bishop c4, pawn push, short castling. So we are sacrificing the first piece in the game. Pawn takes knight, queen takes f3. Now the strongest move is the one which was played by the opponent in black, that is Jerzy Lapsinski. Queen f6. We go ahead to sacrifice another pawn. Queen takes pawn. We sacrifice another bishop. Bishop takes f7. Sacrifice. King takes f7. We sacrifice another pawn. d4. Queen takes d4. So in this position, we have queen takes d4, check, and then we play another strong move. Bishop e3, attacking the queen at the same time blocking the check. We are using this because the pawn is pinned against the king. So there are two choices to be played. Queen can retreat in various positions. Queen can take the pawn which is on b2. The queen can still go back on f6. Let's see. Black takes the pawn. We have queen takes pawn, which is very dangerous. And for example, after queen takes pawn, if you bring back the queen, we can just check and take a free piece. That's why black went back in this position. Black went back. Bishop takes f4. King e8. This position, everything is just hanging. You look at the development of the pieces of black, all of them are on their beginning squares. For example, black plays e7, knight e7. We go ahead and play rook pinning the knight. Then if d6, then we can play knight d5 with a decisive win or advantage. Knight attacking here, knight attacking here, knight attacking with a decisive advantage. For quick, king e8, knight c3, just developing. Black played knight c6. After knight c6, we went ahead to play knight d5. Now knight d5 threatens to check at the same time attacking the queen. So it is a forcing move. Black has to play their best. Now black went ahead to play queen g6 because they saw that they had to remove the queen from this battery of the queen and rook. Remember, if the queen is here, all of this is a very strong and dangerous place to be. So in this position, after playing game 1 is between Boris Spassky and Yasser Serouai, and it begins with a 1 e4, e5, and pawn f4. This is the King's Gambit, and black accepts it with pawn takes f4, knight f3. Now in this position, black has a variety of choices to pick on. He has a bishop move, has a pawn move, and another pawn to hit in the center. But the strategy of Yasser Serouai, the black pieces, was a little bit good strategy, as you will see on the game. He played knight e7. Knight e7 is a strong move, anticipating to play pawn d5 in the center and knight g6 in the future, also protecting our f4 pawn. So we went ahead to play d4 by Spassky, d5, knight c3, just developing pieces, pawn takes, knight takes, and black executed his strategy with knight g6. Now knight g6 is a strong move, so it's white to play, and white played pawn h4. The advantage, which I can tell you, is that whenever you're playing with a strong opponent, try to make them uncomfortable. Chances are high that they will blunder. So h4 is a strong move, trying to dislodge the knight on g6. In this position, Yesa came up with another strategy. He played queen e7. Queen e7 pins the knight against the king. And when you move off the knight from this position, it means it is impossible because the king is being. If you play like bishop d3, there is pawn f5 losing a piece. If you play move like queen e2, it disorganizes the way bishop f1 will develop in the game. So with that, Spassky came up with a simple, brilliant move. Spassky played king f2. In anticipation, if queen picks the knight, we have a bishop check. At the same time, when black responds, we come and pin the queen with a decisive advantage and winning the game. Okay, so Sarwai decided to leave the piece and just develop his pieces. Bishop g4, pawn h5, dislodging the knight off from g6, knight h4. He played bishop takes f4, just trying to take on the material and develop so as to play strong chess. Knight c6. Now the plan of black is to go long castling, put the rook on b8 and add more pressure on the d4 pawn, of which Spassky accepted. Let black play that, but Spassky played bishop pins the knight, long castling, bishop takes knight, and pawn takes bishop, and queen d3. Queen d3 is a very strong move. It's a centralizing move, anticipation of queen checks and taking on material. At the same time, even the knight, which is on h4, is hanging. Black played knight takes, pawn takes, attacking the bishop, and bishop f5. We go ahead to try to move away from all the potential pins. Queen check, king comes to b8, and then knight c5, threatening checkmate in one. Bishop c8, queen takes c6. Now in this position, if you look at it very well, black has some chances, but black missed the next move of white, and black took the pawn on d4. I'll give you 2 seconds to guess the move Spassky played in this position. Because in this position, you see, after taking the pawn, this knight is hanging. Because now the queen and the bishop are attacking this knight. Rook A, E1, in anticipation that this knight can't be taken, because if queen takes the knight, there is bishop takes c7, checkmate. If queen plays to anywhere, maybe like f6, there is bishop takes c7. If for example queen is played to b8, there is rook entering, and the next move when the queen moves away, for example queen comes to d5, there is checkmate in one, or there is bishop check, everything falls apart. Yasa decided to take the bishop on f4, queen check, king hides in the corner, king a8, queen check, queen b8, rook takes queen, bishop takes, rook b1, rook f6, knight check, bishop takes, queen check. The rest of the position is playable, and white went on to win this game comfortably after a few exchanges which happened in the game. As you can see, as I'm showing you very well, took on the pawn on h7, is taking over, and then played king g3, and went on to win comfortably this game.